model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Revell. In this week's build I'm going to feature a 70 Shelby GT500 Convertible with the 428 engine. And for 1970, which was the last year for Shelby Mustangs sold through Ford, Carroll Shelby was really not involved. He pretty much, after 67, he kind of stepped away and Ford had taken over. But by 1970, which was the last year that Ford was selling Shelby Mustangs, as they had a whole bunch of in-house competition between the Boss 302, the Boss 429, the Mach 1. So it was a very different market, and the cars were definitely more high-lined and more styled than they were race cars. They were loaded with luxury, which is the complete opposite of what a 65 Shelby is. That's pretty much a race car sold for the street, where this is a grand touring car loaded with options and luxury. And for 1970, 789 were produced, but they were and they weren't. Interestingly, Ford went through the federal government and they were supervised, and they took all the remaining leftover 69 Shelbys that they had and re-VINed them to 1970 models. And it was quite a lengthy process to remove the VINs and issue new VINs with the 70 model year, even though every single one of them was actually made in 69, and they were leftover 69s. But there was a few little subtle changes that they had to do and that they did. One of the things I was reading about was the 351 Cleveland motor that was in the GT350 model. The 1970 version got a different carburetor, so they took the 69 carb off and put a 70 carb on it. And the distributors were also changed out to make them a little more emissions compliant. So there were a couple of little changes mechanically, which I was a bit surprised to find out. But another thing that they had done to make them visually different is they painted the two stripes on the hood and changed them out. And they also added a chin spoiler. So 70s would have a chin spoiler where 69s do not. So those are the things you look for to really distinguish a 70 from a 69. The VIN will tell you. But they're fully loaded, lots of options, so there's quite a bit going on there. And also reading about some of the numbers, it doesn't tell you how many were broken down in the GT350 and GT500, how many were convertibles and how many were sports roofs. So the numbers are kind of mudded up. They just know that 789 were VIN changed to 70 models. But it's kind of interesting that none of them were actually produced in 1970. They're all leftover models. But another thing that was interesting, there are ducts and scoops all over this car, which I like the styling. It looks great. For me, it's just awesome seeing all this. But then I was researching which ones are actually functional. Like these front ones, they're just open right in the inner fenders. The air does flow through them, but there are no ducts going to the brakes to cool them. These front two and the back two, they're also open to the engine compartment, but it's just to vent air in and out. This center one does actually seal to the air cleaner, and it has ducting around it and seals to the air cleaner. It's not in the model kit. The air cleaner has it, but the hood doesn't have the piece there. So that one is actually functional for cold air induction to the engine. These side scoops here, they are specific to convertible and sports roof models. And on the Shelbys, they were functional. Now, the regular Mustang's coupe and convertible didn't have scoops at all, but the sports roof had a scoop right here in 69 models, but 70 did not. Those were not functional on the regular Mustang, but they were functional on the Shelby, so that did duct air right to the rear brakes. I didn't think that the convertible was going to be a functional one, but it actually is functional in both convertible and in sports roof models. So it's pretty cool that those are actually functional, but most of them are actually not. So it's funny that 3 of them are, and then the other 6 are not. And they went through and they restyled the front end, extended it, the chrome wraparound bumper. So a lot of the styling I really like. And if you listen to my videos, I just like the front ends like this, like the Charger and a lot of the cars that do this. Just my fancy right there. And then the full-on convertible interior, which they had a lot of wood and a lot of tweaking and just a lot of decorations and options in there. Another thing that the 69 and 70s have is this center exhaust outlet, which is definitely kind of unique. And I wouldn't see Shelby actually doing that. It was Ford just trying to make it look very different and exotic. Now these exhaust tips are aluminum, but they're also the crossover here that goes behind the gas tank and ducts the two pipes that come right here and crosses into that, which the model kit actually has. So it's there. The main pipes are steel, but the crossover that goes behind, that's cast aluminum as well. So the way it's made is quite interesting. So, and the kit actually has it, and it's shown here. So kind of surprising, but it is there, and it really represents the real car. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then last thing, the wheels. Now, the wheels, they're an aluminum center with a steel rim. The originals, the first batch, the aluminum center was pressed in, and then they had an issue with some of them failing, so they recalled the wheels. And then they later came out with a riveted design where the center is the same look, but the center was actually riveted to the steel wheel so they couldn't pop free. Interestingly though, when the recall initially happened, and these were the only wheels available on a 69 and 70 Shelbys, when they were recalled there was a shortage of these wheels. So they put the 15-inch chrome Magnum 500s that were available on the Boss models. Those were thrown on the cars for a substitution while the wheels were waiting for them to come out and replacements. So if you owned a Shelby Mustang, you could go back to the dealer and turn in your chrome Magnum 500s and get the recall wheels back, the replacements. And many did, but many did not. So when you see restored ones of these with the Magnum 500s, that's the story with those. Is these were pulled off, and the owner probably decided to keep those wheels. So I thought that was kind of an interesting fact. It was pretty cool. Now when it comes to my build here, this is an old build, believe it or not. It's almost 20 years old. I think I did this one in 2002, 2003. And it's Revell, but it's not Revell. See, Revell came out with a convertible version many years later. I think it was 2015, 2014. I'll throw a picture of that box art. Matter of fact, there's going to be some other pictures as well. I'll throw them in here and I'll throw some at the end. But originally, I bought a resin kit from Mini Exotics when R&D Unique had them. When I was first getting into resin and resin bodies, these were some of my first. This is a Mini Exotics body, yes and no. Problem with that was, it was a nice body, but mine, the front fenders were kind of messed up and tweaked. They were a little thin. I needed a lot of work to fix the front end, and the molds were pretty much getting worn out by then. So I was looking at that body, and I really needed to fix it. So looking closely at it, I started thinking, I'm going to cut the front end off and put on the convertible body to the plastic front fenders. And I was looking closely at the kit and the body and everything, and I realized, you know what would actually be less work? If I just cut the roof off and flattened this down and made my own convertible from the Revell body. So that's actually what I did. I don't want to say that their body was junk. I've seen some nice ones built. I just got one of the last ones, and the quality on mine just wasn't quite up to par. So I decided, okay, I'm going to fix this. Now, the boot, the roll bar, the side scoops, those are resin, and those are theirs. Everything else, the body, I had cut the pillars down, actually bent the trunk down, filled all this back in. So this is the fastback's trunk lines, which are real close. It really shouldn't be that skinny. The convertible should be a little bit wider than that, but never really noticed, never bothered me. And then I just filled all of this in and smoothed it all out. And the convertible body came out really nice. So after cutting the roof off and doing the body work, I had finished building this. I was pretty happy with it, but it wasn't my best work, and I've got some photos of the original build, which pretty much look a lot like this, and it was a stalled project. So I think it was in 2007, I got pictures of it in primer when I tore it apart, and I was just redoing the body because the yellow paint was okay, it wasn't that great, and I didn't use bare metal foil on my original build, and some of it was just a little bit sloppier. So I tore it apart. I left the interior the way I built it. So the interior and the silver paint in there, that's from when I built it back then, and even the brush strokes right here where I touched it up. that's all from my original build. So the interior, while not exactly perfect or accurate, it's my original build. So I left all of that alone, and then same with the engine. Pop the engine apart, and you can see the semi-gloss, more flat pieces that I just popped off and re-glued versus rebrush painting the rest of the engine compartment. But I left the engine as I painted it and left all the details alone on that. So all of that's pretty much my original build. And same with the underside. There might have been a few pieces that I had touched up, but I pretty much left it. Wheels, I believe I changed them out and repainted those. And same with of course, the decals and the paint job. And I redid the bodywork on here. So the scoops, the bodywork wasn't all that great before, but I made it much better. Now, what stalled this project is it sat for a long time, and I finished it in about 2015. And it was basically because Revell had come out with their version, and of course I had to get one of those, and I do intend to build it and make a 69 GT350 convertible out of it. But oh, and this resin chin spoiler is also a Mini Exotics piece. That was also theirs. So finished this up, and since that kit came out, I got the decals for it, and that was what I finished it off with. Was these are actually the decals, because what I found out when I built it the first time is if I used the fastback decals, I had to extend the stripe, because when it curved here, it took up some of the length and shortened it. So I had to have two sets of decals to make the convertible the first time. So I didn't want to do all that again, and when they came out with the kit that was a convertible and decals were longer and two pieces because of it, I'm like, that's perfect. I can use the decals on this. So that ended up finishing this one off. So I completed this one. So it's kind of interesting that it's Revell, but I had modified it into convertible, and you know, using the things I learned looking at the resin body and how they did it, and it was easier just to cut the roof off and do that than it was to fix the front end and fix some of the air bubbles and some of the other things that were going on with the resin body I had. Now, I had bought initially two from him. I had bought this one, and I also bought the 68 Shelby convertible that he offered. That one was much better shape, and I used that body. But this one, the front was just really thin and had a lot of issues, and the hood didn't quite fit. So I had a lot of work to do the front end, and found it was much easier just to cut the roof off and do the rest with it. So I figured I would show you this one, especially since I've got that other Shelby that I'm cutting the front end off of the 2020 Shelby GT500, and I'm doing all of that work, and it made me think about this build and what I went through to build this one and convert it into a convertible. So thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all of your comments. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday.